So in this lesson I'm going to explain piping and I/O redirection. And before starting the explanation, I want to talk about three things. So that is the STD in, which stands for standard input. Then we have STD out, which is the standard output. And we have STD error, which is standard error. These are three file descriptors, as they call them, that exist for any command that you are using. So what is happening? Well, STD in is basically what the command is expecting the input to come from. Normally that's your keyboard. STD out is basically where the command is sending its output to. And normally that would be the monitor of your computer. And then there's STD error, which is the location that the command is sending errors to. Normally that's also the monitor of your computer, but it can be different for different commands. So the thing is with output redirection is that you can manipulate the three of them. So the STD in, if you want to redirect the STD in, you use the less than sign. So this takes the contents of a certain file and uses it as the standard input instead of using the keyboard. An example of that is, for example, mail -s hi root less than dot. So what is happening here? This command, this is the mail command. You can use it to send simple email messages. This command is sending a message with the subject hi to the user root. If you would do this from the command line, the command would wait for a dot on a single separate line. Now what we are doing here is we are doing input redirection. So we are feeding the dot right away so that the command doesn't have to wait for the input anymore. And that can be very useful. Then we have the standard output. That is a way of redirecting the output of a command to a file, basically. So if you would do a command like ls and then the greater than sign followed by the name of a file, like my file, instead of writing the output to the screen, the command would write the output to a file with the name my file. And that makes it easy for an administrator to see later on what exactly was produced by the command. Now when working with standard output, you should be aware that you can use a single greater than sign. You can also use a double greater than sign. If you use a single greater than sign and the file that you specify already exists, it is going to overwrite the file. If you use a double greater than sign, it is going to append to the file. So if you want to keep your file in case some contents already existed in it, you should always use a double greater than sign. And then we have standard error. If you want to redirect standard error, you would use 2 greater than. So in case you're wondering why a 2, well, that is because it uses the standard file descriptor 2. So you want to redirect the file descriptor 2 to whatever kind of file you are doing. For example, you do grep hi on star. Or whatever you want to do. And if you expect lots of errors to occur, you can use 2 greater than to send the errors somewhere else. Like one of the virtual terminals that is connected to your computer. So if you want to send them there, just specify the name of the TTY in question, like TTY6. And that means that you won't be annoyed right away with all the errors on your screen, but you can browse them later on if you want to know what was happening. And that is all I wanted to say about I/O redirection. Now we need to talk about piping as well. Sometimes on Linux the output of commands can be very long. If you want to, you should try the command psaux, which is giving you an overview of all the processes that are running currently on your computer. You can see that a long list of processes is generated and it's too long to see it all at once. And a very common approach is to use a pipe sign. And by using the pipe sign to send the output of the command to some other command, like less in this case, which stops the output after the first screen, and then you hit the spacebar and you continue and you continue and you continue. Pipe signs are very important in Linux because they help you being flexible with the commands that you are using. By using pipes, you can do very specific filtering on output of commands, for example. And that is why pipes are very important. So if you want to describe it in a generic way, in a pipe, we have command 1, and command 1 is generating output, and the output of command 1 is sent to command 2 that is doing its thing with it. So the output in here is input for command number 2. And that is basically what a pipe is doing. So this is what you need to know about pipes, and you will certainly see lots of examples using pipes later in this course.